a written production of the Recreation Centers of Sun City Incorporated and is intended for the sole purpose of informing our Recreation Center members. Any duplication, copying, transmission, broadcast, or use, including electronic and social media, is strictly prohibited without the prior written consent from the Recreation Centers of Sun City Incorporated. Thank you for watching.
Trying to get things going.
Good morning. I call this Board of Directors meeting to order and ask that you rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome to our September board meeting. I'm Kat Fimmel, President of the 2024 RCSC Board of Directors. This meeting is audio and video recorded by the RCSC and made available to the members. Please be advised that there is no recording of this meeting by any individual. Please put your electronic devices into silent mode. Our timekeeper for today is Director Rick Meyer. Please keep your comments to 3 minutes out of courtesy to other members who wish to speak. We'll begin this morning with introduction of the management team. Matthew D. Lazansky, General Manager. Kevin McCurdy, Support and Finance Senior Leader.
Good morning.
Mike Woodbridge, Facilities Senior Leader.
Hello.
Mike Deermeyer, Non-Golf Senior Leader.
Good morning.
Brian Duthu, Golf Senior Leader.
Good morning.
Debbie Giles, the Assistant to General Manager. And of course, our own Marcia Johnson, the Board Coordinator.
Good morning.
We also recognize our audio-visual engineers, Alan Kleinhans, Carla Young, Miguel Jackson, and Doreen Rafferty. We also wish to thank the Sundial staff for putting this room together for us today. I want to take a moment for any members who are coming to our meeting for the first time. If you're here today for the first time, please stand up and be recognized. Okay. The first item of business is the roll call of the voting members for quorum. Secretary Rick Meyer.
President Fimmel.
Good morning.
Vice President McAdam.
Good morning.
Director Foster.
Good morning.
Secretary Rickmeyer, I'm here. Director Ruff.
Here.
Director Nettesheim.
Good morning, everybody.
Director Keiss.
Good morning.
Treasurer Borski.
Morning.
And Director Collins.
Hello, everyone.
Everyone's here.
Thank you. First order is approval of the agenda. Are there any questions or comments on the agenda? Okay, seeing none, the agenda is approved. Next is approval of the minutes. These are the minutes of the June 27th, 2024 meeting. Are there any comments, additions, deletions, corrections? Anyone? Okay, the minutes will be accepted as written. Next up is the Treasurer's report. Is that correct?
The balance of unrestricted funds as of August 31st, 2024 was $15.8 million, which includes a $2.5 million cash reserve. Restricted funds include the Preservation and Improvement Fund and the Capital Reserve Fund. As of August 31st, PIF had a balance of $35 million, and the Capital Reserve Fund had a balance of $5.7 million. Capital improvement funds received to date totaled $1 million. The carry-forward balance as of August 31st, 2024 was $6.1 million. This balance decreased from the 2023 year-end balance of $10.4 million due to the allocation of $6.5 million in carry-forward funds towards the 2024 budgeted capital projects. The corporation operated within the budget year to date in 2024. Respectfully submitted, Anita Borski.
Thank you. Are there any questions on the treasurer's report? Seeing none, the treasurer's report will be filed for audit. Next is the management report. Are there any questions or comments on the management report? Seeing none, then the management's report is accepted as written. Committee reports. Are there any committee reports?
I have one.
Director Rickmeyer.
I just want to let everybody know that this November, the 1st through the 10th, the lawn bowling clubs that we have here in Sun City are having the U.S. Open Lawn Bowling Tournament here in Sun City and Sun City West. If you have never seen lawn bowling and you're curious, it will definitely be a lot cooler temperatures in November. Come out. They're going to be at all of our greens, with the exception of the one at Fairway, and then also they'll be at Sun City West. You'll get a chance to see some phenomenal lawn bowlers. So again, that is November 1st through November 10th. Thank you.
Thank you. Vice President McAdam.
So on behalf of the Elections Committee, I'd like to just remind everybody that there still is an opportunity for people who might be interested in serving on the RCSC board in 2025 and forward to pick up a packet at the corporate offices. Both of the candidate information sessions have already taken place. They are posted or will very soon be posted to YouTube if you're interested in getting information from that source. The final deadline for submitting the packet, which involves a number of items that need to be taken care of, is noon on Friday, October 18th.
Thank you. Next, yes, Director Collins.
Thank you. On October 19th, we're having a softball game, and the management and the board are taking on the Sun City Men's Softball League. Starts at 11 o'clock. There'll be free food and beverages. I don't know what kind of beverage, but please come down. If nothing else, it's going to be funny. It's their grand opening that day, so please come down and see the new facility and grab something to eat and roll on the ground laughing at us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, you can come, Kevin. Yeah, I'm going to play.
Okay. Next is the Recreation Center update from the General Manager.
Greetings. Hold on. Oh, sorry. I should get my microphone. Let me try that again. Greetings, and thank you all for being here, and hello to all of you out there who will watch this on the internet or via our website, or maybe even on a podcast someday. Well, it's still hot, but cooler weather is coming, just not quite soon enough, at least not for me. So here's a few items you might find of interest. Concerning the Mountain View and the Performing Arts Center project, work is wrapping up on the initial task of recommending a site for the PAC. There'll be a presentation to the board next week by our architects and engineers from TriArt. This is the first step in a process. We will then move on to more work on both the PAC and the Mountain View renovation. Budget work has been going on all summer, and committee recommendations to the board are on their way. Keying off the 5-year planning team that worked this spring, Golf Advisory, Budget and Finance, Long-Range Planning, and the COC will be making their recommendations known to the board for further discussion at the town hall meetings next month. And I think next month starts Tuesday. The meetings are on the 21st and 23rd, and there's lots of information out there on that. But I want to say thank you to all the hard work that was put in by the team, the committees, the clubs and centers, the golf and facilities folks and finance folks for making this really the most robust and transparent budget process ever. So thank you to all of you. It It was fun, had some great dialogue, and there'll be more. You may have noticed extensive work being done or having been completed at many of our pool and spa areas. Fairway was completed this summer, and both Oakmont and Lakeview are underway right now, and should be completed, both of these, in the next week or so. We understand there's the tournament coming up in Oakmont, so we're focused on having that done well before that. Also, you might notice that there's a new shade structure that was installed at the Oakmont Lawn Bowl area on that west side, covering those benches that are over there. So another item that you may have noticed is the extensive amount of tree trimming, the trees and the cactus and the shrubbery removal being done at both our centers and our golf courses. So between the deferred vegetation management over the last several years, if not decade, and the unseasonably hot summers we've had both this summer and last summer, it's had a lot of negative effect on our vegetation. Most of you probably saw the end of last summer saguaros laying around here by the thousands in the Phoenix area that just didn't survive. This work was necessary not only for the aesthetic reasons, but for safety reasons as well. You don't want those things falling on you, dead limbs or dead trees or dead cactus. So we took that on. It was a little more than expected, but it was well worth having it done. I think I mentioned the exchange meeting that the library lease was signed by us. We came to an agreement, and we signed it earlier this month and sent it to the Maricopa County Library District. The district now is working on a sublease with the Friends of the Sun City Library, and as soon as they have that finalized, they'll have the lease sent to their Board of Supervisors. It requires some county signatures as well, not just the library district. Another favorite topic here, the punch cards. I just want to say the punch cards have always been accepted and are still being accepted. There should never be a cause where you go up with the punch card and it's not accepted. So if that's an issue, please let us know and we'll remedy that through some training. The summer activities at the Sundial were a big hit. We had, attendance probably from the mid, 500 up into close to 1,000 at some of the shows. So we plan to continue to do this and do it next summer. Also, some of you may have been to the Sun Bowl concert last Sunday. It was still hot. So this weekend's concert is being moved indoors right here where we are now. So that concert will be in here because of the, summer's not giving up. I think it's supposed to be 110 on something like that on Sunday. And we're going to consider next year, due to what I call the heat islanding effect of all the concrete and roadways and everything put in as Phoenix grows, maybe we should start those outdoor concerts in October rather than the last part of September. So we're going to look at that because we want you to be comfortable and able to dance your heart out. So that's about all I have. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next is announcements. Do we have any announcements? Okay. Next is the consent agenda. We do have an item today. It's a name change, changing the name of the Fairway Center Knitters to the Fairway Knit and Crochet Club. Is there a motion for that?
I move that we accept the name change.
Is there a second?
Second.
Ms. Director Collins seconds. Okay. Is there, Marcia, has anyone signed up to speak on this issue?
Madam President, no one signed up to speak on it.
Okay. Is there any discussion of the directors? Hearing no discussion, Secretary Rickmeyer, please take the roll call vote.
Treasurer Borski,
Yes.
Director Keiss,
Yes.
Director Collins,
Yes.
Vice President McAdam,
Yes.
Director Ruff,
Yes.
Director Foster,
Yes.
Director Nettesheim,
Yes.
President Fimmel,
Yes.
and I vote yes. So we have 9 yes and 0 no's.
By unanimous decision, the motion is adopted.
Yay.
On behalf of the Club Organization Committee, the COC, I move to amend Board Policy 12. And I also have an amendment to Board Policy, to the agenda for Board Policy 12. I need to change something.
So you read
I'm
your
amending
motion, now
the-
you're amending your motion?
Yes.
Will you tell us the amendment?
Yes. Under section 9, item K, that would be page 4 of 12, club records. I needed to say, club records of an individual member training on club equipment will be refreshed every 3 years and kept for 5 years. And then the very next, and under number 10, all clubs with dedicated space require a minimum of 2 monitors, and I'm going to change it to in the club at all times instead of in the room. I had some complaints about in the room, so it's in the club. And those are the only 2 things I want to change.
Okay, is there a second to this amendment?
I second it.
Okay, does my second need a second? I don't think so. Okay, discussion by the directors? Do you have a discussion, Rick Meyer?
Okay. This has been a long time coming. We've been working on this for a couple years now. We finally got it where we can propose it.
No, we didn't actually vote on that. We just didn't have, we had discussion. So is there a unanimous vote for that amendment? Any objection? Okay, the amendment, proceed, Director Collins.
Okay.
Tell us your motion as it should read.
We've been working on this for a couple of years. We finally got it completed. There is a template online that all clubs can look at, and the COC will come to your club and help you get the template, your rules put into the template. And what that will do is put all the clubs in Sun City under the same guidelines for rules. No matter what club you're in, you'll have the same template. It'll make things a lot easier. My people on the COC, they're getting run ragged with club fights and everything else. And under this, we'll make sure that everyone knows their discipline policy, has rules in there, and that we want the clubs to be able to take care of their own themselves. We don't want to step in and fix things for you all the time. So this will kind of get everyone on the same page, and it'll help with the guidance in the clubs so that they can run their own clubs and be self-governing. So, thank you.
Okay. You amended your motion. We have an amended motion. We need to have a second to the amended motion. Do we have a second to the amended motion? Yeah. Okay, thank you. Did you want to make any additional comments, Director Collins?
No, ma'am.
I'd like to make a comment.
Well,
I'd like just a wording question.
you have a question.
I have a question.
Ask your question.
Okay, Steve, when you were talking about item K,
Yes.
you said refreshed. Do you mean renewed? That you want them to have their training renewed every 3 years?
That'll be fine, or refreshed, do a refresher.
Okay.
Whichever you guys would prefer.
I'm thinking renewed. I'm looking at people's questionable faces. What do you think?
Yeah.
Renewed? I mean, just training is obviously important, especially with clubs that have things that are dangerous. So I have no objection. It just, I thought, okay, I'm sorry.
Okay. So we got our second to the motion. Now, did you have additional comments? You had no
So
additional?
we're going with refreshed? Renewed. Or renewed? Renewed. Okay,
Whatever you
renewed.
said.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Do we need to redo that? Okay. Ms. Johnson, would you give me the names of any members who would like to speak on this issue?
Karen Eversole. Yeah, a lot of people.
I just have to ask, can you read me what that motion is exactly? I mean, what the amendment is exactly, the wording?
Oh, in the amendment?
Yeah, that you just did?
Okay, under club records of individual member training on club equipment will be renewed every 3 years and kept for 5 years.
Okay.
That's just, you got to do some refreshing to make sure your people didn't forget how to use some of the more, this is mainly for the dangerous equipment that we have.
Okay, not for like a slab roller or a kiln, or, because they're working on them every day. Why would we have to refresh it?
Right, but we're talking bandsaws, we're talking
Okay.
car lifts, we have a lot of torches,
Okay.
we have a lot of dangerous stuff.
Okay. My name is Karen Eversole. My rec number is 154039. I'm the president of the Marinette Clay Corner. I am a part of an amazingly successful club because of my predecessors. They've done a lot of work to make it that way. There are a couple things in the proposed changes to BP 12 I'd like to talk about, but I guess right now I can only talk about one, and it's under club membership, section 2. Waiting lists are not allowed unless approved by the RCSC board. I sure hope this applies to many of us clubs, this being approved by the RCSC board verbiage. Then just 2 sentences later, it says, clubs may require a minimum of skill for participation as defined in their rules and regs. This second sentence is exactly why many clubs may need a so-called wait list. We're following this, but training takes time. Without the proper training of new members in our clubs, not only would we be compromising our club's assets that we've worked so hard for, our expensive kilns, our rolling tables, our kiln shelves, all the equipment we have, all the tools we have, all the glazes we have made, which can cost us up to $300 a bucket, and we have 45 buckets right now. One little mistake can ruin a bucket of glaze. We're also setting up a new member for failure if we don't spend the appropriate amount of time training each person. We've always conducted monthly classes. We call our wait list our interest list. And yes, we have quite a few people on it, probably 80 to 90 people, half of which are currently scheduled for classes that are booked out through April of 2025. The rest will continue to be scheduled as time goes on. Our issue is, since we have become so popular, we get 10 to 20 new people on this interest list per month, making it grow way too quickly. I've had 2 board members tell me, just do a huge class and get them all in. If you want to see our awesome club implode, that's one way of doing it. It's just not possible. And I bet all 316 of our members would agree. Also, more members require more space. We're already past our capacity in our building. I've asked some of you board members to come see our operations and sit in on a new member class so you can understand what we're doing to get as many new members as possible. I've yet to see any of you. But yet you tell me, just conduct a huge class to get all interested people in. You clearly don't understand that physically that can't happen. And I suggest you come, look at the clubs, walk through the clubs, talk to the members, talk to the board members, find out what we're about. Find out how we do things. Is my time up?
Yep.
Thank you.
Madam President.
Karen? Steve wants to say something.
Are there more members to
Yeah.
speak on this
Yeah.
issue? Then they need to speak on this issue.
Before Steve says something.
Please call the next person. This is the time for members to speak.
Stella Vaness?
Thank you, Marcia. Good morning. Stella Van Ness, 116314. I would like to preface everything I am about to say with these statements to each individual director. You need to answer these questions to yourself. Do you understand your fiduciary responsibility to the corporation? Do you understand if you willfully violate your fiduciary duty that willful violation is most likely not covered under your D&O insurance, and you could personally be liable, including real estate and other assets. Under Board Policy 12, number 10, club monitors that Steve just mentioned. Club monitors all clubs with dedicated space require a minimum of 2 monitors in the club at all times. Why is this a requirement being added? How are you planning on policing this? And what happens if there aren't 2 people in there monitoring at all times? You're gonna pull their charter? I mean, you're putting something in your policies that you can't possibly control or police. So you're setting yourself up for failure. Club monitors cannot be held liable for injuries to a club member during their shift. How well do you believe this will hold up in court? Are you opening yourself up for additional liability by putting this in your documents? You need to think about that, and it should be run by an attorney. Number 25, safety. States all clubs shall operate using the highest regard of safety and well-being for its members. Utilizing the term highest regard for safety and well-being is above the legal expectations and/or requirements. Rather than highest regard, you should consider reasonable regard for safety and well-being. If you are going to set yourself up for the highest standards and someone decides that their standards are higher than yours, you are setting yourself up for liability. Number 33, photography and video. You've got a portion in there about allowing photography and video on any RCSC facility or in any RCSC facility by whomever wants to. In regards to this statement, it appears that you are now going to allow video, photos, and auto recording in the women's bathrooms as well as showers, both men and women's. I think that's kind of interesting. I think you better put a statement in there that disqualifies certain areas that you should not be videoed or photographed. We've had this problem in the past. Learn from your history. Thank you.
Thank you.
Karen Tolliver.
Karen Tolliver, 139186, and I want to address the requirement to have 2 people in the club at all times, in designated clubs. I belong to the hand weavers and spinners. We don't have dangerous equipment, so we don't have that type of monitoring. Our monitors are basically in the room to greet people that come in that want to see our product, that we have to be there to be the treasurer as people want to buy things. The other thing is that if we have to have 2 monitors, that means on the weekends when we have a couple hours on Saturday, we want to go work on our project, we have to find somebody that'll go in with us. We know the risks of being in the room by ourselves. We're not children. We know the risks. We should be able to choose if we're in that room by ourselves or not. The other option is that when your staff is closing up the building, have them walk through the room. Because from what I understand, it was somebody falls, somebody faints, they don't see them, they don't find them till Monday. We know there's people on staff on the weekends. This is kind of a CYA for you guys. I have a finite amount of time left. I want to enjoy the amenities that I pay for in Sun City. If I want to go to the weaving room on a Saturday or Sunday, I feel like I should be able to do that. You also say that the 2 people in the room have to be club members. I think I'm going to sign up my husband for weaving so he can come in with me. And if we're talking about safety, a couple of years ago, a woman walked out of this building from a safety meeting with Maricopa County, got hit by a car backing out and died. We all take risks. So I wonder if there's any way that there can be an exception for people who want to come in on weekends. Thank you.
Thank you.
Diane Benstead? No? Todd Mazurek?
Todd Mazurek, 141167. I want to speak on number 25, safety, about the training of members. It says clubs must provide proper training in the use of all equipment and tools. I'm from the Metal Club. We have a lot of equipment and a lot of tools. And so my question is, what is the timeline for us being able to abide by this? Are we going to have any help from you all? If you have this new program that you want us to abide by, we need some parameters to work by. It's just not fair to give us something to do with no guidance, no help, and how are the clubs supposed to get this done in a quick manner? This BP 12, when it's voted on, it becomes effective immediately. We have 350-ish members that need to be trained on a myriad of equipment. We have members that only use one section of the club and don't use another whole section. So I really want to know what kind of guidelines and what kind of training and help you all are going to give us.
No answers.
Thank you.
Bonnie Ragsdale?
My name is Bonnie Ragsdale, number 153825. I am with the metal and the wood shop. My question is on the safety, also for training and so forth. What kind of support is the RCSC going to provide to the clubs to develop and implement the monitors and the change and the objectives? We can't do this on our own. We need your help, your support, because you're the one that's telling us what we have to do. My question is to you all. Can I,
I'll be glad to answer in a minute.
Okay.
We're waiting till everyone's done and then we'll respond.
Okay.
Thank you.
Jean Totten?
Good morning. As I begin Jean Totten, forgot, 148753. As I begin several trips to the podium, I would like to say this just once, but I think it's for every time that I'm going to get up and speak. Bylaws and policies are boring, but they're necessary. They require a lot of time, as evidenced by the fact that Director Collins made an amendment to something that hasn't even been approved yet. I'm just thinking that the board might have used a planning session to engage all the membership who are interested in bylaws and policies to make this process a little bit easier. This was extremely difficult. Club membership. Number 2, why are waiting lists to join a club not allowed? I guess you're not going to answer each question. You just said you're going to do it at the end. You're going to remember all our questions. Number 8, club member and guest attendance. There was a great deal of discussion about non-monitored space, dedicated space, monitored areas. May I suggest a glossary of frequently used terms in clubs to better understand this section? Because I believe Director McAdam talked about the fact that the Grand Center is a non-monitored space, but I also wonder what a non-monitored space means to a club. Number 10, club monitors. It was suggested at the special session to add the fact that 2 monitors, not people, be in the room at all times. Then it was supposed to say 2 club members who are monitors. Well, that was never changed, like you had promised to change it. So now I'm confused as to what Steve just asked. There's also a grammatical error in the first sentence. Remove shall provided and change it to shall provide. Number 14, open club classes. Discussion at special session prompted Director Ruff to mention that there were language issues and confusion, that they would be fixed. I see no difference between what was listed in previous versions. Number 18, club member discipline. Discussion and confusion regarding verbiage. Perhaps adding definitions of a conduct report. Anita mentioned that there are several kinds, and incident reports would help clear that up. That could be added to the glossary. If there's someone after me, I'll come back.
Dale Lair.
Dale Lair, 45573. I have several items I wish to discuss, number 2, number 9, number 26, and number 14. Number 2, on club membership. I also belong to the Marinette Clay Corner. I think Karen did a wonderful job. I hope that you understand that we have 322 active members. And I want you to know that we are very sensitive and aware of the waiting list. We have probably over a year waiting list to get into our club. What we have done on our own is we have worked with the other Clay Club in Sun City to make sure that members cannot belong to both clubs, because they're taking up 2 spaces, and that's not right. So we've made that point to help ease that problem. Another thing I don't think that you understand is the amount of time it takes to train those people. So not having a waiting list is an impossibility for us, and I think that should be something that every club should determine based on their volume, not on an arbitrary rule. Okay, my next item is number 9, K, club records for members' training and of equipment. Okay. I'm going to talk about the Clay Club again. You know, we have, because it's so big and we have so many different areas, people who work on certain equipment are trained on that equipment, and they work on that equipment all the time. I've been a member of the club for years. I don't do anything with the kilns. I don't need to know the kilns. I don't touch the kilns. That is not my forte. I've been in the glaze team for a while, and I know very much about the glaze, and I know how to measure the specific gravity and check different items chemically. But the general member does not do that, and we have rules in place for that. So, you know, when you put the member training and the equipment, the people who are working in those areas with that special equipment have a lot of training, and it's ongoing every week. They have to do it at least twice a month. Another thing that we've done at the Clay Club is we have continuing education for all of our members. We meet twice a month for continuing education. Oh, I'll never get done. Twice a month for each member can come, and we go over equipment, techniques, that sort of thing. Okay, I'm going to fly. I'm going to go to number 26, insurance. One thing that's missing from this is liability. Why are we asked to pay for or purchase liability insurance for the Fall Festival when it's not required under BP 12? You have no right to charge us a liability insurance requirement. Thank you.
Kim Sandy Klein.
Kim Sandy Klein, 149886. I'm going to speak to B on BP 9. I might be a bit confused BP on 9? What it's saying.
We're not on that one.
Ma'am, we're on BP 12 now.
Oh, BP, okay. I've signed up for the wrong one then. I'll go sit down.
Madam President, no one else has signed up to speak.
Would you please add that last member to the BP 9 list? Thank you.
Jean Totten, 148753, and I should have mentioned this before. Most of what I am speaking about, I was not in attendance at the meeting, and so I worked off of the video. I believe I left off at number 18, so I'm on 19, club rules and regulations. I believe, according to what I heard, the words most current were supposed to have been added to the second sentence before the articles, bylaws, and policies, but I can stand corrected on that. Number 24, it was the first 24 when you went through it before. Improvements and changes. Clarification was needed on shall review and approve requests. Director Foster, Director Keiss, and President Fimmel, all three of you made suggestions, but I don't see any change in the language from the last time that you printed it. Number 24, safety, which I think is 25. Kevin McCurdy asked that verbiage regarding training and documentation be added. When he explained when taken, who took, etc. I don't see that change was made. Number 27, club contributions and sales. Kevin McCurdy asked that the words "are responsible to collect sales tax" be added. What was added is clubs must remit all applicable Arizona state sale tax. So I don't know if that is exactly what Mr. McCurdy wanted. The word responsible is not added. Twice during this discussion at the special session, excuse me, in different places of conversation, I heard Director Borski mention that there were club-mandated rules, or I think we have that in our club rules. I don't understand what club rules you're talking about. Are there other club rules that are not under policy? And if so, where are those club rules located? And do all the clubs use them? And in that regard, does the club's office have any bearing on club rules? And if they do they follow their own rules? Thank you.
Sorry, I didn't talk fast enough. Dale Lair, 45573. Back to Kay about the member training. I talked to you about the continuing education committee that we have, that we put classes on twice a month, open to all members. Wonderful. Talk about equipment, correct use of the equipment, any safety or anything that's regarding that equipment or procedures, we cover at that point. I also wanted to let you know that we're very concerned about training. And another thing that we offer at our club is that we, once a month, first Friday of every month, we do a field trip to Marjan's, which is a supplier of tools and equipment. And I personally go on that tour every month and take the new people around to show them what they can use safely in our kilns, what they can't use, how to use certain equipment. So I think we go above and beyond when it comes to this, and I think trying to have a one-size-fits-all maybe doesn't work. Okay. Another thing I wanted to talk about, thank you. Another thing I wanted to talk about was number 14, open classes. There's no way with 322 members that we can have non-members and guests come to our events, our education classes. Absolutely not. That's a privilege of membership. And it goes against everything that we're trying to do. You know, we've worked really closely with the other Clay Club to make sure that if, you know, they can't get into our club, we tell them to get on the list for the other club. We don't want people from another club coming in and sitting in and dispersing our members. I don't know what the capacity for our club is. There's no fire department number, but I'm thinking if we go over 400 people, that's going to be an issue. So absolutely no on that. And the last thing I wanted, and I want to re-emphasize this again because I find this very offensive, that my representative for the two clubs that I belong to in Sun City were told that each club has to buy their own liability insurance for the Fall Festival. Now, this is ridiculous. That comes under our insurance. We are covered under, as a club, under the umbrella for the recreation centers. And yes, there may be...
Ms. Lair, that doesn't really have anything to do with this policy.
It's not written in here. And if it's not written in here, you shouldn't be charging us. So either you need to change this...
Are we charging you, or is the festival group charging you? We're not charging you.
Well, I'm saying that no one in Sun City, any club, should have to pay for liability insurance. We were told it was a requirement. And I'm telling you, it's not a requirement. I'm not paying it, and I'm telling our other club members, we shouldn't be paying for it. It's not right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jean Totten, 148753. And I just have had another question. I thought that when you made an amendment, you had to vote first on the amendment before we could discuss anything.
We did that, Ms. Totten. Do you have any more comments to make about the
So you
BP12?
all agreed that it was okay for Steve to add his changes?
We did.
We just did it right here.
Okay, I apologize.
Thank you.
Karen Tolliver, 139186. I just have a couple of comments. I think it was Mr. Collins said they want the clubs to be self-governing. However, he has a template that over 100 clubs are supposed to fill in, and over 100 clubs are supposed to have all the same rules and regulations. So if they're self-governing, can one club have no 2 monitors? Does everybody have to have 2 monitors? It's kind of I don't know, it's up in the air. Who tosses the coin?
Okay. Thank you.
Why don't you suggest that Preston's question.
Is there any discussion with the directors?
Yes.
Director
Madam
Keiss.
President, I
think especially Ms. Totten is correct. There are a lot of things we promised to change with this we haven't yet. So I move that we table this, make the changes that we promised to make, and then come back and revisit it when it's been corrected.
Is there a second?
Excuse me?
Yes, sir.
I would rather postpone than table.
I can agree to that.
Would you withdraw and restore your motion, please?
Yeah, I will withdraw the tabling, and I move that we postpone this to fix the corrections we said we were going to make.
Madam President, I would like to answer some of their questions.
No, sir, you may not. We have a motion to postpone. I need a second to the motion to postpone. I have a second to the motion to postpone. Secretary Rickmeyer, will you take the roll call vote on the postponement?
Okay. Director Collins?
No.
Director Foster?
Yes.
Director Nettesheim?
Yes.
Vice President McAdam?
Yes.
Director Ruff?
Yes.
Treasurer Borski?
Yes.
Director Keiss?
Yes.
President Fimmel?
Yes.
I vote yes. So 8 yes, 1 no.
With a vote of 8 to 1, this motion is postponed.
Madam President.
Director Ruff.
I would like to suggest that we have an open meeting with the clubs to go through this policy before it comes back before the board.
Is that a motion, sir?
That is a suggestion.
It is a suggestion.
Yes.
Your suggestion will be taken under advisement.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hold on. I have no problem with that, but you have to set a date for the postponement.
Sir?
Because the postponement is the next meeting, and this has to be done before then. And with the budget and everything else and the town halls, are we going to have time to do it that fast?
Sir, that will be a discussion for the directors. Thank you. The next motion is from the Long Range Planning Committee with regard to the Sun City Foundation. Director Keiss, please read your motion.
Let me get to it. Hold on a second.
Thank you. Take a moment.
I moved, based on the Long Range Planning Committee's recommendation, that in addition to providing critical assistance to the RCSC members, the Sun City Foundation be tasked to broaden their goals, to work within its full capacity, to obtain grants, gifts, and bequests to aid in the building of additional RCSC funding streams.
I'm sorry, sir.
I just read the motion.
You just read the motion. Thank you very much, sir. Okay. Is there a second?
I second it.
We have a second for the motion. Director Keiss, as maker of the motion, would you like to speak on its behalf?
Yeah, the Sun City Foundation does critical assistance to our members to help them if they're unable to, or if they're having difficulties getting their assessments paid. And it's an essential benefit to our members and to it. However, there are other things that can do. Like, for example, Sun City West is a foundation. They raise between $2 and $6 million annually to help with projects in the area. Things that involve things like water reduction, which we're going to be spending millions of dollars on in the future. Performing arts centers that we're going to be building. Other things that could provide some help with us to not increase the burden on our members for PIF projects. A lot of this can help us so that our PIF fees don't have to go up, and so that we are able to tap into free monies that make it available and better for everybody in the community. And I think that I know the board and our fund, and we can't do that. We need the Sun City Foundation to be able to do that, and I think it's critical to us as improving as a community to be able to find additional funding streams that don't come out of our pockets to be able to do that.
Thank you. Ms. Johnson, please read the names of those. I'm sorry?
Tom Anderson.
Tom. Director Foster.
Is it appropriate to say something here or wait for the?
Please wait for the discussion.
Okay.
Thank you. Ms. Johnson, please read the names of those members who signed up to speak on this issue.
Stella Van Ness. She sits there looking at me. Wait.
Stella Van Ness, 116314. Why is the Sun City Foundation to be tasked to broaden their goals to work within its full capacity to obtain grants, gifts, and bequests to aid in the building of additional RCSC funding streams? The Sun City Foundation functions as a separate, the Sun City Foundation is a separate corporation from the RCSC. The Sun City Foundation is a 501c3. RCSC is a 501c4. This seems to be unfair to the foundation as it was established to assist members who have outlived their resources. It's for poor people, and you are trying to play with their money. And I find it interesting that this came on the heels of a $200,000 trust donation to the foundation. Why? Thank you.
That trust donation's been in effect for some time.
Madam President, everyone who signed up has spoken.
Thank you so much. Was your name on there, ma'am?
Yes. Jean Totten, 148753. I'm well in favor of broadening the scope of the foundation. However, I don't like to hear the word PIF associated anywhere in the discussion.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Is there any discussion from the directors? Director Foster, you had requested to speak.
Yes, thank you, Madam President. I guess I also am, well, frankly, I think that the current reading of the foundation's mandate or direction, it permits things like grants and stuff. There has been some perhaps misunderstanding or disagreement between the foundation board and the RCSC board about whether or not to pursue those areas. So I understand where the Long Range Planning Committee wants to clarify that a bit. However, when we talk about Board Policy 20 a little bit later, that does get addressed. And so with all due respect, I think this particular motion, well-meaning as it was, is redundant and unnecessary. The funding that was just talked about, the allegation was that the board was going to try to pilfer those funds. And that is simply not true. And I would request you check your facts before you make allegations like that. There will be separate accounting if this goes through, where the charitable function money stays in one place and the grants come in another place. So they're not going to be somebody pilfering those funds. I'm really upset that someone would allege that that was going to happen. That's simply not true.
Other board comment? Director Nettis-Syme.
So one of the things that we need to be clear about is how grants work. You can't commingle donations such as for assessment fees where people have left bequests. You can't commingle that with grant money. It has to be handled in a different accounting fashion. So therefore, there cannot be any commingling of funds. By law, if you accept a grant and by the grant, whoever the grantees, the grantors, give us the money, there are rules and regulations that we have to follow for that. So there can be no commingling of funds. That is the way that grants work. Otherwise, you would think about big foundations or that give money to, I'm going to say, ASU, right? Say they give money to ASU. That means that the psychology department could pilfer from the science department for grant money. It doesn't work that way. So it's very strict rules and regulations around it that we would have to comply with. And certainly nobody on the board has any thought process of touching the money that has been donated, that we've been very fortunate to receive donations for to help out our neighbors who need assistance. So I hope that helps.
Madam President.
Director Collins?
Yes, I've been approached with this, and I just want to make this very clear. Ms. Matthew and Kevin have absolutely nothing to do with the foundation monies, and I've been told that they're going to try and take it. They have nothing to do with it, and they are not anywhere near it, and would never be. And there is no one on this board that will take the money. But also I talked to one of the groups that donates frequently, and that's the Men's Club. And the Men's Club said they never make a donation that tells exactly what that donation has to do. They just donate to the foundation. Okay, so there's, as long as it's charitable and it's to help our people, that's what they care about, and that's what they want to do with it. And this is not, no one is going to touch this money whatsoever, except for our people. And I hope when people are out there watching this, that if they're under the poverty line, they come down and they come to the office and see if we can help them with their assessments, because that's what we use it for. And this money is not the people of the foundation's money, and it won't be the new people who go on the foundation's money. It's the foundation money, which is for all of our people, all of our residents. None of us have it our money, okay? It's the foundation's money for the residents of Sun City. Thank you.
Thank you. Additional director comments? Secretary Rickmeyer, please take the roll call vote.
Okay. Director Collins?
No.
Director Foster?
No.
Director Nettesheim?
Yes.
Okay. Vice President McAdam?
Yes.
Director Ruff?
Yes.
Director Borski? Pardon me, Treasurer Borski?
Just a second. Yes.
Director Keiss?
Yes.
President Fimmel?
Yes.
And I vote yes. So vote of 7 and 2.
With a vote of 7-2, the motion passes its first reading. Next up is second readings. Second readings do not require a second. The first motion is regarding the posse. Director Collins.
I move to approve $4,000 be paid to the Sun City Posse for their continued support with event parking and other services in 2025.
Did you want to speak further on this motion, sir?
Yes. The posse is an important part of this community. Not only do they check your houses if you're away, they do all our parking in all our areas, whenever any events we may have. Even when we play bingo, they come through on Thursday nights and go through the parking lot 3 to 4 times, just making sure that no undesirables are in the parking lot looking at your cars or in your cars. So, you know, their presence scares away people and helps us keep our areas a little better. They're going to be at the Fall Festival. They're going to work that. They work very hard at they're going to be at the baseball game doing traffic, the concerts. So I wanted more than this, but this is what I could get. So please.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Ms. Johnson, please read the names of those members who wish to speak on this issue.
Madam President, no one signed up to speak on this motion.
Thank you. Is there comments from the directors? Secretary Rickmeyer, please take the roll call vote.
Treasurer Borski?
Yes.
Director Keiss?
Yes.
Director Collins?
Yes.
Vice President McAdam?
Yes.
Director Ruff?
Yes.
Director Foster?
Yes.
Director Nettesheim?
Yes.
President Fimmel?
Yes.
And I vote yes, so 9-0.
With a vote of 9-0, the motion is adopted. The next motion is regard to board policy. Did I miss something? Is it board? I'm sorry.
16.
16. Board policy 16? Okay. The next motion is in regard to board policy 16, budget and finance reports. Director Keiss.
I move to amend Board Policy 16 to incorporate a new process to request, review, and approve PIF projects and the use of the SIF fund to fund annual capital expenditures. It will also formalize and use the use of the reserve study, 5-year planning team, 5-year budget, and 10-year PIF forecast.
Did you wish to speak further?
I do. The objective in rewriting BP 16 was to establish a process to formalize building the things that I just talked about. This is an attempt to get more members involved in our finances by making financial decisions run through committees to provide recommendations to the board. Hopefully this will reduce the knee-jerk and buddy-buddy type decisions that have plagued our community for years. Every year, the 5-year planning team will provide an initial recommendation to the Finance, Budget, and Audit Committee on the annual budget and the capital projects list, so the committee can review and can review it and provide recommendations to the board. While that's going on, the Long Range Planning Committee will review the 10-year PIF forecast and prepare their recommendations. Nothing can be added to the PIF forecast until it is justified to the LRP, so they can either recommend or not recommend to the project. BP 16 also sets a process for club projects to run through the Club Organization Committee, who will push their recommendations to Finance, Budget, and Audit to be included in the year's capital project list. This helps our community get more involved in the finance process and helps make sure that things don't get added to our budget and our PIF forecasts that aren't vetted through committees and have some member input in them.
Ms. Johnson, please read the names of those members who signed up to speak on this issue.
Madam President, no one signed up to speak on this motion.
Are there any director comments? Director Foster.
Just to add to what Director Keiss has outlined there, this is really a terrific step in changing how we've done our capital expenditures in the past. And it is a big step towards the transparency that we've tried to build into the culture of this organization, so that committees, and that means the membership, are crucial parts of the decision-making as to where those capital dollars get spent. So I strongly support this change to Board Policy 16.
Additional comments? Secretary Rickmeyer, please take the roll call vote.
Treasurer Borski?
Yes.
Director Keiss?
Yes.
Director Collins?
Yes.
Vice President McAdam?
Yes.
Director Ruff?
Yes.
Director Foster?
Yes.
Director Nettesheim?
Yes.
President Fimmel?
Yes.
And I vote yes, so 9-0.
With a vote of 9-0, the motion is adopted. Next is new business. Next is a motion to amend Board Policy 2, Senior Management. Director Ruff, please read your motion.
I move to amend Board Policy 2, titled Senior Management, as follows. We're deleting paragraph A1, minor change in paragraph 2, which is now number 1. It's really just a simple change and nothing exciting about it.
Is there a second?
I second it.
Okay, we have a second. Director Ruff, did you wish to speak on behalf of this motion?
Yes, I would. This is part of a couple of different policies put together to help us work really well with our general manager and the board.
Okay. Ms. Johnson, has anyone signed up to speak on this motion?
Stella Vaness.
Stella Vaness, 116314. I know you guys are getting sick of me. Board policy, BP2, senior management. Senior management is responsible for directing, coordinating, and overseeing financial management operations and personnel for this corporation. This section is earmarked to be removed. Who wrote the changes to this section, and why is it being removed? I don't understand that. Senior management has a responsibility. Thank you.
Anyone else? Ms. Johnson?
Everyone who spoke everyone who signed up has spoken.
Thank you. Any comments by the directors? Director Ruff.
We deleted that because it was a little redundant and a little too plain. The senior managers have specific areas that they are assigned, and rather than saying that they're the finance director is overseeing the financial, it's just, that's their job, and it doesn't need to be in there. So that's why it was removed.
Any other comments by the directors? Secretary Rickmeyer, please take the roll call vote.
Treasurer Borski?
Yes.
Director Keiss?
Yes.
Director Collins?
Yes.
Vice President McAdam?
Yes.
Director Ruff?
Yes.
Director Foster?
Yes.
Director Nettesheim?
Yes.
President Fimmel?
Yes.
And I vote yes, so 9-0.
With a vote of 9-0, the motion passes its first reading. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to call for a 10-minute break. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next motion is regarding board policy number 3, corporate records. Director Ruff, please read your motion.
I move to amend Board Policy 3, titled Corporate Records, as follows. There's some minor language change on paragraphs A, 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 5, and 6, nothing exciting. In paragraph 8, this is the main reason for changing this, is that as a member, you can request to see some documents that are not published publicly. And if you make that request, then the board will allow you to come in and see it if it's appropriate. And then if you want a copy, you can ask for a copy. And we just added and/or take a photo of it. So you could take a picture of it with your phone and you'd have it electronically if you want it rather than a piece of paper. And that's what the change is.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
We have a second. Director Ruff, did you wish to speak on behalf of your motion?
I think it's a fairly simple change and makes it easier for the staff and members that are involved in looking at documents.
Ms. Johnson, please read the names of those members who signed up to speak on this issue.
Jean Totten.
Jean Totten, 148753. I was just curious as to what the board sees as circumstances where someone could or could not take a photo of a document. I don't quite understand why that's in the language of the change. Thank you.
Thank you.
You want me to answer that?
No. Are there any other names?
No. Everyone who signed up has spoken.
Thank you. Are there any comments from the directors? Director Nettesheim.
Am I right that this was added specifically based on member feedback and to add clarification for employees to let them know it's okay to let people take photos. Because in the past, I think it read something along the lines they could pay for a copy.
Yes.
But there wasn't the same, as we move forward with technology, there was nothing in there to account for people being able to go in and take a picture.
However, there are some documents which we don't allow people to take copies of, and they're generally legal things, or there's a reason to not put it in general public, but somebody can see it, but we wouldn't want them to take a picture of that. But any document that they're approved to see, if it doesn't fall in that category, then they can request a copy or take a picture.
So I think Jean is saying that doesn't answer a question, so maybe we didn't understand your question.
Do you want an example of what that would be?
Well, yes.
Well, I'll give you an example if you'd like. We had a request to see the financial documents. A copy was made of the financial documents, and they're made available to the member. The member cannot take it away, but they can stay inside the office, and if they would like to take a photograph of a particular page or the whole thing if they so choose, they're free to do so.
But you state which may or may not be granted by the board.
Yes, not every request will be granted.
So is someone sitting down in the corporate office perusing records and see something they want to take a photograph of, they stop and they ask Marcia?
No,
they're seeing the document. What am I misunderstanding?
The document has been made available to them.
I'm sorry, say that again.
The document has been made available to them to review.
How? Where?
It's been handed in the corporate office.
Okay.
We'll hand it to you. I gave you a sample of someone who came in to look at some financial documents.
Right.
Okay. If he had wanted to take a photograph of one of the pages, he would now be free to do so. That was not the case before.
Yes, but you say which may or may not be granted.
There are some documents they are not allowed to see because of legal
documents primarily.
I understand that, which may or may not be granted by the board. So
if it's not granted, they can't see it because of the legal
May I finish? If that person, if you all know they came in to see financial records, it was approved that they could see financial records. They were cautioned, there was some information. Anyway, they got up, they saw something, they went to the coordinator and said, I would like to take a photo of this section. Does she call you,
No,
the board?
they're not going to ask her to do that. If they open the financials and they see a page they want to photograph, they are now free to photograph it.
So why do you have may or may not be granted in there?
Because they may not be granted to see the document in the first place, not whether they can make a copy or not. If they're approved to see it, they can take a picture of it.
I guess does anybody understand what I'm saying?
Can I?
Director Nettleson.
So Jean, I think one of the ways to think about it is say they've looked at documents and it is not one they're actually approved to get copies of. Then they may appeal, and the board in that instance can say yes or no, depending on an appeal, perhaps, right? I'm just giving you an example of where that might play, but I think where that end of that wording is in the beginning process. We have a list of documents that members can see. We have a list of documents that members can't see. That's already been granted. I'm just giving you an example of how it would work. That's the way it would be granted by the board and management, because there are private documents that they cannot make available to all members. Right? So for the documents that are available to members, that's pre-approved. right? They're going in there to take a picture or get a copy. It's been pre-approved. I think your question is the order of the words.
So are you saying then anyone can request to look at documents and take a picture?
Yes.
If it's approved.
If it's approved.
If it's not approved, you can't get the document or take a picture. But if it's approved, then you're able to take a picture.
If you can look at a document, you can take a picture of it.
Which may or may not be granted by the board.
I think your concern, Jean, is perhaps the order of the words.
Are there, Director Foster, you had your hand up. Did you wish to make a comment? If not, that's
Yes,
okay.
no, I just consider Ms. Totten's comment there and the confusion that she's raising, and I understand perhaps the order of the words is not quite appropriate, and maybe this is another, and I hate to do this, but perhaps this should be postponed to fix that.
But can it be amended?
Madam President, if we need to amend it, we can do that at the final reading, next board meeting.
So
Well, we don't have.
you would like it to
how we
be
would
considered the way it is now, and then but it would have to pass 2 readings the same, so you're better to amend it now. Director Keiss. I'm sorry.
Wrong hand.
Treasurer
Wrong hand.
I saw a hand. Treasurer Borski.
Okay. I would like to amend this sentence to say, after completing review of documents, which may or may not be granted by the board, members may request to have copies of a particular document or take a photo. Just switch the words around.
Agreed.
I think that's a list.
Did you get that, Ms. Johnson?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Is there a second for this amendment?
Can you repeat it?
Ms. Johnson, could you repeat it, please?
After completing review of documents, which may or may not be granted by the board, members may request to have copies of a particular document and/or take a photo. Better? Okay.
Director Collins.
I don't understand why we just don't say if a document is...
Director Collins, there is an amendment that's been made. Please speak to the amendment. Thank you. Is there additional comments to the amendment?
Is there a second on the amendment?
We were just getting the language. Director Nettesheim.
So rather than amending, I would speak to that amendment that I would say perhaps that last section is not necessary based on what is in number 3 and 4. I would argue that it's redundant. So I would say that's my personal opinion, and that perhaps we should just.
I've not heard a second, but I am hearing that people would like a different amendment. Is there a different amendment that someone would like? Treasurer Borski.
I'll restate my amendment to, after it says or take a photo, cross off what's remaining.
Yes.
So it would stay, after completing a review of documents, members may request to have copies of a particular document or take a photo.
Is there a second?
I second that.
There is a second. Is there discussion? I see no, Vice President McAdam.
Yeah, I sort of regret bringing this in at this point. I hadn't anticipated this conversation. But I do believe that it is consistent with normal corporate practice to differentiate between allowing people to see something as opposed to having a copy of it. And I do think that that is a distinction actually worth maintaining, because the statement is that you can request to have a particular document. I don't think that that request always has to be granted. I think that we want to make certain documents available for people to see, but I don't think that should go hand in hand with an automatic granting of a request to have a copy of that. That can obviously, in today's world, make it around the world in about 2 seconds. So I am actually in favor of maintaining a distinction between that, and for that reason, I think I would oppose this amendment.
Director Ruff.
In paragraph 4, it says, if the request is approved, a date, time, and place shall be set for the review. If the request is denied, the member shall be notified accordingly. So paragraph 8, it is redundant to have that, which may or may not be granted because it's already been granted, or they wouldn't have been allowed to see it in the first place. So the change that they suggested, after completing review of documents, members may request to have copies of a particular document and or take a photo. And that.
Is that what Treasurer Borski is recommending, or is there an alteration?
That's what I recommended.
Okay.
I second that.
I think we had a second. Yeah. Now we're having discussion. Director Keiss.
And as Director Nettesheim pointed out, also in Section 3, it tells us exactly before you even get to the review point, it shall be at the sole discretion of the board as to whether the member has a valid purpose for review of the corporate documents requested. So before they even look at them, they've already been permitted whether they can look at a document or not. At that point, whether they can take a picture of it or get copies is, in my mind, redundant, because we've already said there are times and documents that you just can't look at, and that is in line with corporate policies.
Okay.
Kevin has a question.
Mr. McCurdy.
Thank you. I'd really like to tag on to Director McAdams' comment. I think the important thing here is that the way that this policy currently works, there are two distinct decisions being made. The first decision is, can the member view the document? If that decision is made that the member can review the document, there's a second decision that must be made if the member requests a copy of it. If we pursue the amendment that I'm hearing now, that second decision is removed, and any member that is given the right to view a document automatically gets to take a photo or get a copy of it, and that is not the way things are working right now. So I think we need to be careful here. If you believe that if a member has the right to view a document, they automatically have the right to take a photo of it, then this amendment will do that. If you want the right to either allow or disallow a member from taking a copy or a photo and just view it, the way that this is written now is that's the way that would work.
Madam President?
Director Ruff.
Kevin, can you give us an example of one that you wouldn't want copied? What would it be?
Any documentation around an open legal situation. We do get sued, and it's up to the board to allow people to view documents relating to that, but I sure as hell would not want to give out a copy of it. No. So, and then there's some financial information that maybe the board is comfortable letting somebody look at, but would not want copies of it floating around. So I think it would be important to retain that right to say you can see a document, but you just can't have a copy of it. Because as Karen pointed out, you take a photo, it's very easy to blast that out to hundreds of thousands of people instantaneously.
Director Keiss.
Okay, I can understand your thoughts with this, but if I'm allowed to look at a document and I go in and I bring a piece of paper and I write everything down on the document, there's nothing stopping me from doing that. So how is this different? If I can write down word for word what's in that document, how is that different than taking a picture or getting a copy of it? If I'm allowed to look at it, I can write it down. That can go out to the world in a couple of seconds anyhow. So the thing that stops you from not allowing people to look at things that are sensitive is in the initial one where you say, okay, I'm sorry, you just can't look at that. It's a matter of a lawsuit, or it's a personnel issue, it's a personal record or something like that. And those are sensitive things that people just can't look at. If you can't look at them, I can write it down. It doesn't make any difference.
VP McAdam.
Preston, I beg to differ with you on that, because one of those things is a member-generated document, and the other thing is a corporation-generated document, and that makes a really, really big difference in its presentation in the world. And I remember from my college days in doing research at the Library of Congress, there are areas where you can go in and open a book and take a picture, make a photocopy, but there are areas where you are not allowed to do that. So there are areas where they will say you're welcome to come in and look, but there's no phone, there's no recording device. This is not unusual to differentiate between these two things, and I think that there is a very good reason to leave this as it stands, which doesn't say that the board will deny it, but the question from the members, are there situations where you would not want to have a corporation-generated document made available? And I would say yes, there are. So.
Director Collins.
Yes, we don't seem to be getting anywhere. I think maybe this should be postponed.
There's a motion currently on the table that we need to resolve, and what I've heard thus far, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that both the original motion and the motion made by Treasurer Borski would both resolve the situations that have been discussed here today. Help me out here, because we're working right now on Treasurer Borski's amended motion.
Which amendment?
We'll have Marcia. Is Marcia still with us? We'll have Marcia read it again.
Okay, so the one you finally did, Anita, was after completing review of documents, members may request to have copies of particular documents and/or take a photo, and you struck, which may or may not be granted by the board. Correct?
Correct. I believe so.
And that was seconded by Preston.
Okay, because of all the discussion, I'll withdraw my amendment.
You actually can't.
I think we have a problem with that because the motion no longer belongs to you, it belongs to the Assembly. So we would have to vote on a withdrawal of that motion, but we can do that.
True.
So now there is a motion to withdraw the amendment made by Treasurer Borski.
Second.
So I hear a second.
Okay.
Any discussion?
Huh?
Secretary Rickmeyer, please call the roll call vote.
Okay. Treasurer Borski?
The motion is to withdraw, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Director Keiss?
Yes.
Director Collins?
Yes.
Vice President McAdam?
Yes.
Director Ruff?
Yes.
Director Foster?
Yes.
Director Nettesheim?
Yes.
President Fimmel?
Yes.
And I vote yes, 9-0 to withdraw.
Unanimously, the amended motion is withdrawn. We are now returned to the original motion made by Director Ruff. We've had discussion. Do we need more discussion?
Do we need to make an amendment so that it reads better? So after completing a review of easy for you to say, yeah. After completing review of the documents which may or may not be granted by the board, members may request to have a copy of the particular document and/or take a photo.
You want to postpone it?
So, what are we doing?
How about,
That leaves it as it is, but it just makes it a little more readable.
And you have to have
Because,
So are we making a new motion, Vice President McAdam, to recast this motion to remove the last couple of words that were there?
I believe, if I understand things correctly, and I might not, but I believe that we're at the position of the original motion with the original wording, and we are supposed to move forward. That motion was seconded. All the amendments have been turned down or withdrawn by the Assembly. So we're back to the original, and I suppose we would still be open for discussion
We
about
are
that.
open for discussion.
In which case, I would like to say, I think we should keep the wording as it is.
I agree.
Heard. Is there any other discussion?
Matthew had his hand up.
Okay. Director Foster.
Well, I think thank you, Madam President. Even just listening to Vice President McAdams' comment right there of the confusion that has evolved, it does strike me that we're not really ready to get this done yet. I hate doing that because we did have a session where we presented all of this and maybe a dozen people showed up, which is very unfortunate. It's important that we get the feedback from the membership, but we were kind of hoping for that last week. That apparently didn't happen very well. So now we're debating something that we had hoped would have been cleared up a week ago, and we're not ready. So I'm wondering, I would move that we postpone.
We have, please, you're out of order. We have a motion to postpone. Do we have a second? Second from Mr. Collins, Director Collins. Is there discussion? Seeing no discussion, Secretary Rick Meyer, please take the roll call vote.
Okay, hang on, I've got to find the right page to postpone. Okay, Treasurer Borski?
Yes.
Director Keiss?
Yes.
Director Collins?
Yes.
Vice President McAdam?
No.
Okay. Director Ruff?
Yes.
Okay. Director Foster?
Yes.
Director Nettesheim?
Yes.
President Fimmel?
Yes.
And I vote no, so 7-2.
The motion to postpone has passed. Is this a postponement to the next meeting?
Yes.
A postponement to the next,
Postponed
to the next meeting. Okay, thank you. The next motion is regarding Board Policy 4, Robert's Rules of Order. Director Ruff, please read your motion.
I move to adopt Board Policy Number 4, titled Robert's Rules of Order. This policy adopts the way the board will use the Robert's Rules of Order through the special rules of order allowed within Robert's Rules. And it's a 2-page document.
On the back table.
There's one on the back table if you're interested. So the Robert's Rules of Order allows users to establish specific ways to apply the rules. The following will be the application of Robert's Rules for board and membership meetings. And so it, general thing, in Section 2 of that, if you looked at the agenda today, reflects the agenda as we do these things. So there's a consent agenda, which we had a couple of motions under the consent agenda today. The procedure for small boards simplifies making motions. You don't have to stand up and go up to the microphone and all that. Informal discussion of subjects permitted while no motion's pending. The chairman is a member and may speak in informal decisions, debate, and vote on all questions. Then the special order is the approval of agenda, which we did today, then reading of making minutes, the treasurer's report, management report, committee reports, recreation center update by general manager, president comments, announcements, committee recommendations, unfinished business, and new business. That's exactly what we've done almost. We're still working on it. And then there's 6 stages of a motion that you saw the vice president make an issue about withdrawal. If you look at paragraph 3 there, the chair states the motion or can have it read by the maker, and the withdrawal of the motion cannot be done by the maker. It has to be stated by the chair and the motion be voted on. So we can then debate the motion, put the motion to vote, and announce results. And then understanding precedence of motions like we did here, instead of voting on the motion, we postponed it. And there's a number of different things there that we also did a recess. So this spells out how we're going to operate under Robert's Rules of Order. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. I hear a second. Director Ruff, did you want to comment further?
I think what I said was pretty complete.
Okay. Ms. Johnson, please read the names of those members who signed up to speak on this item.
Madam President, no one signed up to speak on this motion.
Are there any comments from the directors? Steve, Director Collins.
Well,
I think it's kind of redundant to have all this in here when we could just say we will follow Robert's Rules of Order. I don't see why we need it. Whatever we want to use out of Robert's Rules, then we do it. We don't have to have 2 pages in our bylaws to tell us what Robert's Rules is, I don't think. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Any other comments? Director Rickmeyer.
Steve, I think it's a case of it's just shortened to say we're going to follow these and not everything else. It's kind of giving us the primer that we need. I mean, I don't know what other word to say on it, so.
Okay, thank you. If there's no other comments, Secretary Rickmeyer, please take the roll call vote.
Okay, Treasurer Borski?
Yes.
Director Keiss?
Yes.
Director Collins?
No.
Vice President McAdam?
Yes.
Director Ruff?
Yes.
Director Foster?
Yes.
Director Nedesheim?
Yes.
President Fimmel?
Yes.
And I vote yes, 8-1.
By a vote of 8-1, the motion passes its first reading. The next motion is regarding Board Policy 6, corporate privacy policy. Director Ruff, please state your motion.
I move to amend Board Policy Number 6, titled Corporate Privacy Policy, as follows. And we are, at the request of the Sun City Foundation, adding them to this. I'll read the whole paragraph. The Recreation Centers of Sun City Incorporated is required to obtain personal information from owners and cardholders in order to conduct normal business. It is the corporation's objective to protect the privacy of that information. Only organizations that perform a recognized beneficial service to the owners and cardholders, for example, Sun City Posse, Sun City Fire Department, Sun City Homeowners Association, and the Sun City Foundation may, at the direction of the board or senior management, receive limited information.
Okay. Is there a second?
I second.
Okay, you second. Seconded by Director Rickmeyer. Yes. Okay. Did you wish to speak further on the motion, Mr. Ruff?
No, I think it's pretty simple and straightforward.
Okay. Thank you. Ms. Johnson, please read the names of those members who signed to speak on this item.
Madam President, no one signed up to speak on this motion.
Directors, are there any comments? Treasurer Borski.
Just one comment. The foundation is trying to take a proactive stance on this. Sometimes our members don't know they can apply to the foundation for help. And this way we can get information from the finance departments and contact people ourselves. If we find they're going into default, we can make a contact and see if they'd want to pursue their possibility of having us pay their fee assessments.
Are there any other comments? Secretary Rickmeyer, please take the roll call vote.
Treasurer Borski?
Yes.
Director Keiss?
Yes.
Director Collins?
Yes.
Vice President McAdam?
Yes.
Director Ruff?
Yes.
Director Foster?
Yes.
Director Nedesheim?
Yes.
President Fimmel?
Yes.
And I vote yes, 9-0.
At the vote of 9-0, the motion passes its first reading. The next motion is regarding Board Policy 9, cardholder guests and punch card and host punch cards. Director Ruff, please read your motion.
I move to amend Board Policy 9, titled Cardholder Guests and Host Punch Cards.
Is there a second?
I second.
Second by Secretary Rickmeyer. Okay. Mr. Ruff, Director Ruff, please, do you wish to speak further?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
This is not a review of the host punch cards right now. We're doing this change to eliminate paragraph B, which had you have to live within 75 miles and you're limited to 14 guest visits per year, which we are removing from other areas. And so that's to get this in concert with those. For the host punch cards, plan on having a planning session around that to figure out how we can make this work best for our members and for the corporation in the future. So we're not going to talk about that host punch cards today.
Thank you. Ms. Johnson, please read the names of those members who signed up to speak on this item.
Jean Totten.
Jean Totten, 148753. I'm pleased to hear you mention planning session because I had that written down here. And again, I'd like to say that I'm thank you for making postponements on some of these issues. I feel that, anyway, much discussion has taken place between the exchange meeting, the special session about guests, clubs, and punch cards. I understand that what you're doing today is not regarding all of the discussion. So I don't understand the urgency to fix this before you fix what needs to be fixed. The policy was never changed, but as mentioned at the last meeting, the board agreed that they had violated their own policy violated the policy by allowing the general manager to make changes as he
Ms. Totten, please address the policy. We're here today to discuss the policy that was just read.
I am addressing it.
No, please focus on the policy. Do you have any issues or questions regarding the policy itself?
Yes, I feel it's premature. If you're going to have a planning session soon to discuss host and punch cards, I feel you should wait and do it all at one time. Have a planning session to go over the entire policy and show your reasoning behind why you think changes need to be made to lessen the abuse, as Kevin McCurdy mentioned on the videotape, and then show members documentation why you're coming up with the changes.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Ms. Johnson, are there more signed up? Okay.
Cheryl McLean. Okay. Kim Sandy Klein.
Kim Sandy Klein, 149886. I'll try this again and see if I get it right. On BP9, on B, my concern with this is what is the incentive to live in Sun City anymore if I can still purchase the house here, I could rent it out, I could live across the street in Peoria, and I still have access to the rec centers. And I can bring my guests, which are then utilizing the rec centers and wear and tear. And to me, by eliminating this 75-mile, that's basically what we're doing. So I can have a house, I can rent a place for a quarter of the cost, rent my house out, so I can actually make gains financially by living here and still have all the amenities at my. So I guess I'm a little confused on to what would the incentive be to live in Sun City. Then it seems, the cost of what it would cost for repairs, and then also if I live in Peoria and I can bring all my guests with me, even though I don't live in Sun City, but I have a house here and I'm renting it out, my guests are now increasing the likelihood of a safety issue. So I think that really, the 75-mile seems like that was implemented for a very good reason, because it protects our snowbirds, which it should, but it eliminates people from investment housing here and still having access to everything with all their guests. So that is a very big concern, I think, and I think if that was well known to all the members of Sun City, you'd find that would be predominantly questionable. So I guess the thing is, what is the purpose of eliminating the 75 miles? Thank you.
Madam President, everyone who signed up has spoken.
Thank you. I'm sorry?
No, 3 people signed up only. Yep.
There was someone that signed in the wrong place, and we moved them. That was the lady? Okay.
I only had 3 people sign up. No.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
No, there's 1 sheet.
There's a woman that said she signed up.
We fixed that. I already fixed that. That was just her. Yeah. Yeah, nobody signed up.
I actually signed up for that. I was the first one to sign up.
I have Jean Totten, Cheryl McLean, and then I added the lady that just spoke because she had signed on the wrong sheet. That's all that's on there. And there was only 1 sheet for each motion.
Maybe I signed up on a wrong sheet.
What's your name?
Karen Eversole.
You signed up under the bylaws sheet.
Yeah, I signed up under 2. They watched me sign up.
You were on BP 12,
and
you signed up under the bylaws.
This is BP 9.
You signed up under the bylaws sheet.
I was number 4 on a sheet that said number 9.
What's your name?
I guess I signed up on the wrong one.
What? What's your name? You.
Anne Marie Mahoney.
Okay, you signed up on the bylaws sheet also.
I'm sorry, I meant on this.
So did I.
I thought it said guests and so did the bylaws.
No?
It is a bylaw.
Okay, ladies. I don't want to set a precedent here, but we're getting towards the end, so let's let you go ahead and
I'll do it real
speak.
fast.
Okay? And
Karen Eversole, 154-039.
What's your?
Karen Eversole. So under BP 9, cardholder guests and punch cards, what I would like to find out is why you're getting rid of the 14 times per year a guest can come in. If you're getting rid of the 14, then what is the limit? Is there a limit? If you allow no limit, what would be a reason to ever join a club? What would be the reason to move here? By allowing this, a guest has more privileges than a member. They can just come in and enjoy all of the amenities that the members work so hard to build the club up with. In our case, the members work their 8 hours per month by monitoring or on a committee, and they put in extra time to build yard art so the club can sell to help us get that money to put into our bank account. Our club has in our rules and regs that a member can bring the same guest in 6 times per year. Do our club's rules and regs trump this policy or not?
I signed up on the wrong sheet.
I, for one, am not sure how unlimited visits are fair to the clubs and facilities. Sure, I want to share our club with our members, family, and friends, but not exorbitantly and not at the expense of the rest of the members. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Anne Marie Mahoney. I'm number 157919. And she just went through a lot of exactly what I was going to say. One thing you have talked about is liability and risk management. And we would be opening our members' exposure to lots more lawsuits from whoever is coming in here unlimited beyond 14 times a year is a big worry to me. I called several of my neighbors and friends, and I consider myself well educated, and I try and keep up with things. I tried to read through all your edits that came through, and I'm not blaming everybody, but man, and I come from a slightly legal background, okay, in my previous professions. I gave up on reading, and I thought there's nothing in here that's important. They're just changing one word here and one word there. I never got to the meat of this 14-day thing until I kind of read it the other day in the Independent. But I started saying, I called several of my friends today, and they are all, of like mind, care about what's going on here, and none of them knew anything about this unlimited stuff being struck, okay, that these within 75 miles. All they knew was about the punch cards, and that you don't have to go now online and get them. That's a big, big, big concern. And I'm just wondering, has anybody here done the cost versus return on investments for this? We are going to open the floodgates if we leave it striking this limit, I truly believe. And of course, it will bump out our members for having a peaceful use and being able to enjoy the use of the facilities. Granted, all the facilities aren't used every day, all day. I go into the fitness center. I don't want to go somewhere where there's bumper to bumper and they're beating up our equipment because they don't really care. Some of these people may not really care. We live here. We pay for it. We paid the $5,000 one time. We pay the $575 a year. We need an ROI done on this because I think that it's not appropriate. And thank you. I'm not blaming anybody. I'm just saying, somebody, if you struck it here, you better change something else somewhere else, okay, to protect us more. I'm not quite sure why it got struck. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dale Lair, 45573. I also will be very fast, and I'm sorry I signed up on the wrong sheet. First of all, I'd like to know what the metrics were to make a decision like this. I personally think that this is going to be the death knell of Sun City. I own a rental property. I could have bought a house in Peoria, newer, nicer, police department, and used all these facilities for the same price as living here, and plus I'd be collecting rent, would offset a lot of my expense. So, I don't know why you would want to change the limit of 14 guests. I think it's a terrible decision. My vote would be hell no. And I would like to point out, anybody who agrees with me, please stand up.
Please, Ms. Lair, please.
I think you need to know
This is a
how
business
long
meeting.
this is. I'm sorry. You need to know. It's my turn to speak, please. You need to know what a foolish move this is. You're going to have extra wear and tear on your equipment. We're already at capacity in some of our clubs. We've talked about that in BP 12. And just let's open the floodgates, and if you know somebody, come on in, we're going to do it. No, it's not right. We moved here for a reason. We moved here for the clubs and for the recreational facilities. I could have moved into Peoria. I didn't. I chose this, and this was one of the reasons why. So I'm totally against this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ruth Mackay, 159538. I misunderstood. I wrote my name on the wrong slip. I'm sorry. It looks like Ruth Mackay. I misunderstood what this was about. So I'm interested in finding more information about the meeting that you're going to have about the cards. Thank you.
Do we have any director comments?
Yes. I'd like to, as a prelude to this, Kevin, are you aware of any time that you have barred somebody because they've had 14 visits in a year? Has it ever happened?
Director Ruff, I'm not aware of that, mainly because we have no way with the use of host punch cards to track how many times a particular guest has been brought onto our facilities.
So,
which is a big reason why we were advocating changing to day passes as opposed to host punch cards.
So if you are living in Sun City and your grandchildren live in Peoria, they can only come 14 days in the entire year. Nobody tracks that because of the punch cards. We don't know.
Excuse me, maintain order, please.
You can track it for your club, and that's perfectly okay. But for the base use of this, we got a report yesterday of the use of all the clubs. There's 102 clubs on the list, and how many people had how many guests and how many had next to none. And one of the clubs had 52% of the attendees were guests, and it was in the thousands for the first 8 months of this year. There are other clubs that have very few guests. And I don't have any problem with you having a guest rule to limit. Number one, what
Mr.
we've done.
Director Ruff, I'm not sure how this relates to the policy.
Well, it relates to the policy as to why we made the decision, is that we don't know who lives within 75 miles. We don't know who's come here 14 times with using punch cards. There's no way of tracking it. So to tell a grandma that lives here and grandfather that their children and grandchildren can't come visit more than 14 days in a year when they're 5-10 miles away seems unfair to that person.
Director Collins, did you have a comment, please?
Yes. I'm not willing to sell Sun City to outsiders. I'm not willing to give it away to outsiders. This is our community, and that's why we have these rules. They've been here for 60 years. We haven't had a problem with them. And I mean, a slumlord could very much buy property in Sun City, make it into slums. They're going to be able to get rec center passes to everybody, and it's just could degrade the value of our neighborhoods. And it's wrong, and we don't need to do it. If it's for money, we should find a better way to get money, because I'm not willing to sell our community.
Thank you, sir. Treasurer Borski.
Yes, I had this discussion with Director Ruff earlier. I am not in favor of removing a 75-mile limit. I just don't want somebody in Peoria to decide, well, my 20-year-old granddaughter wants a pool party and I'm bringing all my friends here. I don't think that's a good thing to do. The 14 days, we've had complaints about I can't bring my grandchildren here, or my club can't exist because we need outside people. We don't want clubs to fold. One is our tournament bridge. If they didn't have outside people, they couldn't have a tournament bridge club. Maybe there's another way to do this 14-day thing. I'm not sure it needs to be here. Maybe it's a club exception. But the 75 miles I do not support, and I didn't from the beginning.
Withdrawing it or keeping it?
Removing it.
Are there additional comments from the directors? Director Rickmeyer.
Okay, it's my understanding that the reason the 75-mile was removed was because if you lived in Sedona, you were within the 75 miles and you could not use our facilities if you were snowbirding. If you lived in Flag, you could because you were more than 75 miles away. So we're penalizing many of our people that spend part of winter here or own a property and jump between the two residents. Regardless of whether or not you rent your place out, you're paying the $575 fee. You've paid the SIF and maybe the PIF and maybe the SIF as well. So these are folks that are paying their money just like those of us that live here year-round or are snowbirding here. So I think in some ways the previous, what we're striking was discriminating against people.
Okay, thank you. Director Foster.
Thank you, President Fimmel. And this comes from my economic background, so I don't intend to offend anyone, but I think perhaps management, the membership, and the board needs to think about how do we allocate resources in this economy. And the fundamental way we allocate any resource land, labor, capital, entrepreneurial ability, whatever, we allocate it based on price. We don't allocate it on whether you live within 75 miles or not, or how many times. We allocate it on price. So if a non-resident wants to come and use our golf course, what do? We price it, right? If somebody wants to come and use our bowling alley and they're not a resident, what do? We price it. And we use those prices, frankly, to subsidize your use of those facilities. Now, if we've got a bridge club or something that won't survive, if we, for some reason, ask too high of a price for a punch card so that they decide not to come, perhaps that can be discussed and something different can be reached. But I would consider the possibility that if you want to allocate your resources and you want to maintain a reasonable use of those resources, then you allocate it by price. And I would suggest that we think really hard about non-residents coming in, but it's not on an arbitrary basis, which I would call what's in this board policy. Price them and make them make an economic decision whether they want to come here, and we make an economic decision about whether we want them here. Thank you.
Thank you. Director Collins.
Yes, I just wanted to say, as far as discrimination, I don't think that was any part of it, because the way it's been is if you have a home here and you rent it, then you would not have rec cards. If your renters left, and then you would be given back your rec cards. So there was 2 cards for the property, and whether you wanted to give them to the renter or you wanted to use them. That's what it was. It wasn't discrimination that if you live in Sedona, as soon as you came back and went into your home as your residence, you were given back your cards.
Okay, thank you. Are there any additional, Director Ruff?
Yes, one of the things we haven't talked about, and I hadn't figured out how to put it in here, but if you look at what's happened with bowling, they've really reduced the outside users because they've brought in more and more members from the club. So if a non-member who's in a league comes in and wants to bowl on free time, if there's an available lane, he can have it. But if a member comes in, there's no lane available, then he has to leave after the finish of that game. So it's not a black and white, as many people as can fit in the door. There's a capacity, I agree, but we also can have rules around who's able to come in and how many guests, and I would leave that up to the clubs. There are clubs that want as many guests as they can get. There are clubs that don't want any guests. We should be able to, the club should be able to limit guests just like we do on bowling.
Okay, thank you. Are there any additional comments? Director Nettesheim.
I have a question. The very first part of it says neither spouses nor any Sun City, Arizona resident, whether considered seasonal, 30 days or longer, or permanent, can be considered guests. Have we accounted for that anywhere else?
That language is in numerous policies and in the bylaws. That's why I wanted to take it out of here, is because we're taking it out everywhere else.
I'm just confirming it's been accounted for anywhere else.
Yeah.
And then the remainder speaks specifically to guests, not to Sun City members, correct? It's their guests coming in within, if you live in the 75-mile radius, then they're limited to the 14 times per year. Is what we're removing. I'm just confirming. Okay.
Vice President McAdam.
Yeah, so I think that there is, what I've heard today is that there's a concern about people setting up situations where they live outside of Sun City and then just open the gates of Sun City to any guests that they want to have come in. And I think I'd just like to point out that we have not been policing this. We have not been enforcing the 14-day maximum rule. And I don't believe we have evidence that that has been problematic. Let me just posit that. If it were to become problematic, I think we would be able to address that. I think that the situation, please let me finish. Please let me finish. I think that even though there is a question about the possibility of people living outside of Sun City abusing it, a grandmother who lives here in Sun City who has a 20-year-old granddaughter in Peoria who wants to have a pool party can do exactly that. It doesn't really matter whether you live in Sun City or you don't live in Sun City. That can happen. That sort of abuse could happen at the same time. Let me just give you one anecdotal piece. So in the street we live in, very nice couple who lived there. Their daughter ran into some difficulties, and they decided that they needed to help with childcare for young children. They couldn't move the daughter in here, so they moved just outside of Sun City to be able to help this daughter. They keep their home here in Sun City. They live a few miles away, and they rent that out, but they have paid their PIF, they've paid their SIF, they pay the $575 assessment fee, and they're sort of asking, why are we not allowed to use the facilities? And I think they have a very good question about that, and I actually think that the number of people in that category exceeds the number of people in the category that we're imagining right now, that there's going to be this vast abuse if we take away the 14-day limit. It hasn't been policed, it hasn't been enforced. I'm not aware, maybe management could confirm this or refute it, but I'm not aware of any situations where we think that there's been a horrible amount of abuse by virtue of not policing that. And frankly, if we continue on with the host punch cards, we have no way, as Kevin just mentioned, we have no way to police that. So I think that what we're saying here is that we, for grandparents who have grandchildren from Minneapolis being able to come here and use the facilities 40, 50, 60 days a year, but grandparents whose children live in Glendale, grandchildren live in Glendale, not being able to do that doesn't seem right. So I understand that we don't want our facilities to be overrun by outside use. I think we have to think about the other side of this question as well. There are competing interests that are here. I understand that. And I think we need to be able to weigh those interests, but to ask ourselves whether we're not succumbing to a certain amount of hysteria about what might happen to our facilities, because there isn't really any record of that happening up to this point at all. So.
Okay, thank you. Are there any final comments from the directors? Seeing none, Secretary Rick Meyer, please take the roll call vote.
Give me a sec, I gotta get there.
Yes, take a moment. No, ma'am, you may not speak. You're out of order.
Okay. Treasurer Borski?
No.
Director Keiss?
No.
Really? Director Collins?
Absolutely not.
Vice President McAdam?
Yes.
Director Ruff?
Yes.
Director Foster?
No.
Director Nedesheim?
No.
President Fimmel?
No.
And I vote yes. So we have 6-3, or 3-6 for
3-6. With a vote of 3-6, the motion is failed. The next motion is regarding policy number 20, the Sun City Foundation. Director Ruff, please read your motion.
I move to amend board policy number 20 titled Sun City Foundation.
Oh, I'm sorry. Is there a second?
I'll second.
We have a second. Okay. Director Ruff, would you like to speak to your motion?
I would. In reviewing the foundation bylaws and the bylaws for RCSC, we have not been exactly following them. We checked with the attorney for the board, or for the RCSC, and got his take on it. So In the executive session on the first business day of January the 1st, the board votes for the officers, president, vice president, treasurer, so on. We also need to appoint the Sun City Foundation board members. The board members of the foundation serve a one-year term every year. There's no 3 years, 2 years, they're all one-year terms. So the RCSC board has to reappoint them or approve them, whatever language you want to use. And that has not been happening. It will start happening in January. We intend to do that at the first executive session where we do the president and vice president, et cetera, so that they're in place for their first meeting in January.
Mr. Ruff, Director Ruff?
Yes.
You said it doesn't happen, but it does happen. The selection is made by the RCSC every January. There is some contention about the interpretation of that by the directors of the foundation.
Gotcha.
Okay.
The directors of the foundation are appointed and elected by the RCSC Board of Directors and may be removed by a vote of the RCSC Board of Directors. The foundation board shall function as a civic charitable organization whose purpose is to raise funds for charitable activities, senior programs, health, social, educational, and wellness programs for the members of the RCSC. So that is the other specific change in here. And that will allow us to have our looking for grants to support those different things. And as I think Preston said earlier, Sun City West got a $6 million award to help them with the water issues from the Water Board for Arizona. We haven't even looked at it, and they've had that for a couple of years already. That would really help us dealing with that in the future and potentially ease us from increasing member assessments because we have another source of income to help do some of these things that we need. That's it.
Okay, is there a second?
I second.
Seconded by Treasurer Borski. Director Ruff, do you have any additional comments?
No, I think I said everything I need to.
Okay, Ms. Johnson, please read the names of those members who signed to speak on this issue.
Jerry Walczak.
Jerry Walczak, 108-413. Ladies and gentlemen, and Madam President, I've been on that board, the Sun City Foundation Board, for 10 years. And we had an individual, Nadine Meese, who was on the board for 23 years. She just resigned recently because of the changes you're making. I've been on that board for 10 years. I see no reason to change anything on those bylaws. You're changing the bylaws not for the benefit of the foundation, but for the benefit of our RCSC board. The money is donated to the foundation for a charitable reason. And it should be used for the people in Sun City that need the assistance. There are 10%, or actually 9.9%, of the individuals living in Sun City that are under the poverty level. I don't think there's a valid reason why you should change both of those, either one of them. Can you give me an explanation why, other than the fact that you can use the funds for something else? Because those funds are there for donations for helping these individuals.
Sir,
Those funds will remain exactly where they are. We spoke about that earlier. There'll be, because there'll have to be two funds, any future donations would have to be earmarked. But the money that's in the foundation today will be spent for the purpose that it was provided to the foundation. The two things are mutually exclusive of each
That was
other.
not stated anywhere, though. I've never seen that.
We talked about it earlier today.
Okay, well, I just walked in. I had to go to another meeting. I'm
that's
sorry.
okay.
But anyway, I just think it's not correct to change both of these or either one of them. You had a,
Okay, thank you.
okay, thank you.
Madam Chair.
Stella Van Ness?
Excuse me,
Oh.
Okay, go ahead.
Ms. Van Ness?
You should be able to say something. Stella Van Ness, 116314. Board Policy 20, the Sun City Foundation, states, in an executive session on the first business day after January 1st, the RCSC Board shall appoint not less than 7 or more than 17 directors to the Sun City Foundation Board of Directors, thereafter referred to as the Foundation Board. For the coming year, in accordance with the Sun City Foundation bylaws, 2 directors from the RCSC shall be appointed to the Foundation Board and served as president and vice president of the board that year. That is not what the bylaws of the Sun City Foundation say. The bylaws of the Sun City Foundation, dated October 12th, 2020, Article 5, Section 3, titled Election in Tenure, states, at its January meeting, the Board of Directors of the RCSC shall elect new directors to this corporation to fill vacancies of the Foundation Board Directors. Directors shall serve a 1-year term unless said director resigns or is removed under Section 4. Section 6, meetings under A, further states the annual meeting of the Board of Directors shall be held in January, the first 10 days, organizational meeting of the Board of Directors of the Recreation Centers of Sun City Incorporated. At this meeting, the board shall elect officers of the corporation and transact such business as may come before the board. It does not anywhere state that the previous RCSC board is electing the president and the vice president. The Sun City Foundation Board elects the president, vice president, and the other officers in accordance with the bylaws. I'm not going to go into the handout that was issued prior to, or on September 16th about the board, the Sun City Directors Board's not having any vote. I do hope that you are not going to later on try and place in there that the Board of Directors of the Sun City Foundation have no votes, because that is essential. As Jerry mentioned, I was also on the Sun City Foundation for approximately 10 years. There are a lot of things that that board votes on and have the right to vote on. Support services, RCSC, Section 2. The bylaws of the Sun City Foundation under Article 3, Purpose Section 1 states the corporation shall function as a civic charitable organization whose purpose is to carry out exclusively charitable and health educational purposes and programs of the Recreation Centers of Sun City Incorporated in Arizona's nonprofit corporation. Consistency in your documents is very important. It has not happened in the past and should happen in the future. I don't see so far it happening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jean Totten.
Jean Totten, 148753. After viewing the YouTube video, again, a lot of discussion among the members about the foundation, some from the board directors,
regarding the financials and the accounting. There was one member of the audience who came up and spoke and said she had never heard of the foundation. She wasn't familiar with it. So again, as I've stated before, I don't understand the urgency in some of these matters. I think better planning should be done before this amendment is passed. While I'm in favor of parts of it, I'm not sure about all of it, and I don't think I'm the only one. I would ask for a vote of no. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam President, everyone who signed up to speak on this motion has spoken.
Thank you. Are there any comments from the directors? Director Ruff.
I forgot to mention at the beginning that when we went to the attorney about how we could set up something to bring in grants, et cetera, he said that we needed to put that under the Sun City Foundation because it would cost more and be more complex and less likely to work well. He sees what we're trying to do as being perfectly acceptable within the foundation's bylaws and may need to be changed a little bit, which is why this is in here. But we want to work on getting those grants, and it needs to go through the foundation, and we do not intend to affect the current activity of the foundation. We want to just go beyond that for some additional things that will help our community and our members. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there other comments from the directors? Secretary Rick Martin.
Yeah,
Vice President McAdam.
I guess I'm not probably the most expert opinion up here, but I feel like there might be some value in saying the following, and that is currently we have no tax-advantaged receptacle for donations apart from the Sun City Foundation. So Sun City RCSC is a 501c4. It's not tax advantage for anybody to donate money to RCSC. The foundation is a 501c3 organization, which means there are tax advantages by donating to that organization. So as we looked at the fact that we were missing a receptacle, if somebody passes away and wants to leave some portion of their estate in order to help RCSC in some way, shape, or form, we have no way to accept that in a way that is tax advantageous for that estate. You need to have a 501c3. And I think this is, if I understand Jim correctly, we approached our attorney about that. And he said, you already have a 501c3 whose mandate includes all of that. It's not being practiced right now, but if you want to create a different 501c3 in order to be able to do those things, it would be very, very complicated and difficult to achieve. He said, you've got an organization already. Nothing needs to change about the mandate or anything. We're not wanting to reduce in any way the current work of the foundation. We simply want to add to it. The work of the foundation will stay what it is, the help that comes to the community through that. We want it to stay that way. We want the people in the foundation to stay there and continue to do the good work that they have done. All we're saying is that there's another opportunity for us to allow people to donate things in a tax-advantaged function if we expand the work of the foundation to include that as well. So if we, for instance, were to hire a grant researcher, or if somebody that has experience in that would volunteer to do that, or a grant writer, we would be able to do that through the foundation. We have no other means to do that at the current point of time. So I'm not sure that I've said that correctly. I'd open that up to my other directors, but that's my understanding, and that's what is motivating this change, is not to stop anything that the foundation is doing, but simply adding to it, because we believe that there are quite a few possibilities that exist that remain unexplored and untapped that would serve this community very well.
Thank you. And as Ms. Van Ness has already identified it, there is a need for consistency in the process between what the rules say and what the rules need to say. Do we have any other final comments? Secretary Rickmeyer, please take the vote.
Treasurer Borski.
Yes.
Director Keiss.
Yes.
Director Collins.
Yes.
Vice President McAdam.
Yes.
Director Ruff.
Yes.
Director Foster.
Yes.
Director Nettesheim.
Yes.
President Fimmel.
Yes.
And I vote yes, 9-0.
With a vote of 9-0, the motion passes its first reading. The next motion is about board policy number 21, membership documentation requirements. Director Ruff, please read your motion.
My motion is I move to amend Board Policy 21 entitled Membership Documentation Requirements, Section C as follows, and it deletes all of Section C. And that this is congruent with the other 14-day, 75-mile restrictions, so I think we should probably, I've lost the word. Not table, but
Postpone.
Postpone this until the next meeting, and we have time to decide how we want to treat that issue.
We have a motion to postpone. Do we have a second?
I second.
Second from Director Nettesheim. We need to vote that, right? We need to vote that. Secretary Rickmeyer, please take the roll call vote.
To postpone, Treasury Borski.
Yes.
Director Keiss.
Yes.
Director Collins.
Yes.
Vice President McAdam.
Yes.
Director Ruff.
Yes.
Director Foster.
Yes.
Director Nettesheim.
Yes.
President Fimmel.
Yes.
And I'm going to be contrary and vote no, so 8-1.
Okay, with a vote from 8-1, the motion is postponed to the next meeting. The next motion is regarding board policy number 32. Director Ruff, please read your motion.
I move to amend Board Policy number 32 titled General Manager.
Okay. Is there a second?
I second.
Second from Director Keiss. Okay. Did you want to add anything further, Director Ruff?
Yes, I would.
Thank you.
The whole intent of changing this is to modify to some extent the way that we work with our general manager, and we think it will help us work together much better than we have in the past few months, and we're really excited about it.
Good. Okay, thank you. Ms. Johnson, please read the names of any members who signed to speak on this motion.
Stella Van Ness.
Board Policy, Stella Van Ness, 116314. Board Policy 32, titled General Manager. Under A, you have crossed out transfer of budgeted funds between major categories and must be approved of by the Board of Directors. By removing this, are you saying that the General Manager can now transfer budgeted funds without board approval? Do you understand that by making this change, this and future boards may be personally liable? Under you, the GM shall present a forecast session monthly to the board prior to the board meeting of all expected changes planned in the next 3 to 4 months. Does that include repair of a sidewalk crack at a facility? Sounds like this is re-implementation of work sessions we used to have that were done away with because people claimed they were lack of transparency. Has anyone explained to you how the corporate veil is pierced? Do you realize the directors are responsible for the corporation delegation, and even if you delegate power to the general manager, you as a member of the board are ultimately responsible for those actions? There are so many issues, in my opinion, with what you have proposed to do that I suggest you speak with the corporate attorney as well as personal attorneys before voting on this item when it comes up for discussion.
Thank you.
Jean Taunton.
Jean Taunton, 148753. After listening to the section of the YouTube video where this topic is introduced, I would like to take exception to the remark by Director Ruff. There is nothing here that anyone should get excited about, is what he said. I am excited to see that the board expects the GM to be in compliance with our corporate documents, and I hope they continue to hold him accountable for the compliance. Letter R states, the GM shall meet twice monthly with the president and vice president to update them on any and all issues of concern to the GM, the president, or the vice president. I'm curious, are the rest of the board members chopped liver? I would like to see verbiage added to include the other 7 board members as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam President, everyone who signed up has spoken.
Thank you. Do we have any director comments? Vice President McAdam.
Yeah, Jean, just in response to your most recent statement here, it used to be that the GM met weekly with the president and the vice president. And what we have established now is over, let's say that a month has 4 weeks. I realize there are some months that are a little bit different, but basically in a 4-week period of time, we have a whole board interaction with the general manager after the exchange meeting. So that's the information session that takes place on the Wednesday following that second Monday of the month. The entire board is involved in that. And prior to the board meeting, this forecast meeting involves the entire board. So we actually are having, the entire board is having more direct interaction with the GM than has historically been the case.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments or discussion by the directors? Director Foster.
Thank you, President Fimmel. Jean, I am surprised to be referred to as chopped liver because I thought I was the eye candy on the board, and apparently I'm not. So that was, how disappointing. Well, thank you for those comments, but I would not be overly concerned about the shifting of funds among different divisions because we're going to know about that. It's not that he has carte blanche to move golf money to bowling or vice versa. We're going to know about that. We're going to see those financials. We're going to be able to talk to him with the meetings that Vice President McAdam just outlined. So there are some checks and balances. There aren't just you can do whatever you want. That's in fact not the case. So I think you might be a little over concerned about some things that we have thought through, and I think you and the board are protected. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments from the board? Director Collins.
Yes. I understand that, but I feel much better if they came to us and said, we need to do this, we have an issue, rather than, oh, by the way, we did this. I just think,
Okay, thank you, Director Collins. Are we ready for the secretary to take the roll call vote? I believe we are. Secretary Rickmeyer, please take the roll call vote.
Treasurer Borski?
Yes.
Director Keiss?
Yes. Yes.
Director Collins?
yes.
Vice President McAdam?
Yes.
Director Ruff?
Yes.
Director Foster?
Yes.
Director Nettesheim?
Yes.
President Fimmel?
Yes.
And I vote yes, 9-0.
Okay. With a vote of 9-0, the motion passes its first reading. The next motion is regarding amendments to the bylaws. Director Ruff, please read your motion.
I move to not amend the bylaws. I want to move it to the next meeting. We have the same issue here in this document.
So are
with
you
the
motioning
75 miles.
are you motioning to postpone?
Yes.
We have a motion to postpone. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, is that Director Foster? We have a second. Do we have any discussion that needs to be had? Secretary Rickmeyer, please take the roll call vote. I'm sorry, did you have discussion?
I have a question. Would it be possible, I don't know what the right order of things, so please bear with me, guys, I'm learning. What the right order is things, of whether we could hear the members speak to what they wanted to say?
No,
or
there's a
that's
motion,
not-
there is a motion to postpone.
Okay.
It has been seconded, it has been discussed, and that will be voted.
Okay, thank you.
Secretary Rickmeyer, please take the roll call vote.
Treasurer Borsky?
Yes.
Director Keiss?
Yes.
Director Collins?
Yes.
Vice President McAdam?
Yes.
Director Ruff?
Yes.
Director Foster?
Yes.
Director Nettesheim?
Yes.
President Fimmel?
Yes.
And I vote yes, so 9-0.
With a vote of 9-0, the motion is postponed. The next exchange meeting will be held here on October 14th at 1 p.m. The next board meeting will be held here on October 31st at 9 a.m. The annual meeting will be held here on March 11th of 2025 at 6 p.m. There being no further business and without objection, this meeting is adjourned. I'm sorry.
Can I make just one announcement?
Sir, you had a chance to make announcements. I'm now closing. What is the announcement, sir?
Well, since we didn't get to go through the bylaws, I'd invite anybody that has comments to email it to me at jruff@suncityaz.org.
Thank you, sir.
I think everybody who signed up meant to sign up.
There being no further business and without objection, this meeting is adjourned. Please remember to turn your electronic devices back on. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that reminder.
This is a copyrighted production of the Recreation Centers of Sun City Incorporated and is intended for the sole purpose of informing our Recreation Center members. Any duplication, copying, transmission, broadcast, or use, including electronic and social media, is strictly prohibited without the prior written consent from the Recreation Centers of Sun City Incorporated. Thank you for watching.